Today, we're going to talk about a common question frequently asked amongst people in the workplace: how to deal with a toxic work environment. Well, let me first start by saying that most of us spend at least 32 to 40 hours per week at work, and that is a long time you are personally investing in. It's important to be in a job or occupation that you feel comfortable, confident, and productive in. The problem is when we work for a manager or boss who is toxic or narcissistic. Because usually, when the leadership is toxic, the entire workplace is toxic as well. The toxicity will permeate all levels within the company, creating what we refer to as a toxic work environment. So, how do we deal with a toxic work environment? The answer is find another job. Let me just stop right here, real quick, and just say I wish I had this advice when I was in the workplace. I'm retired at the moment, and when I was working, I did run across a couple of jobs, where the environment was toxic and the boss was toxic as well. So I just want to pass this on to all of you so that you don't have to go through and learn the hard way from what most of us have gone through. So just pass things along. If you guys are working still and you find yourself very stressed out and unhappy, you come home exhausted mentally, and every week it does not get better. It's the same old where you come home and your boss is stressing you out. They're just being very toxic and abusive. Well, please pay close attention. This video is going to help you. Toxic work environments are not healthy for your emotional or physical health. Emotional abuse has long-term effects on your mental and physical health. If you haven't seen my video on long-term effects of emotional abuse, I highly recommend you check that out. Recently, I did a video on that, and it talks about all the emotional and physical effects that you can have from being in a relationship or a situation where there's emotional abuse. So I would recommend you check that video out if you haven't already. You can try complaining to higher management, but that will most likely not be effective because politics sometimes run thick in companies. Also, the health of a work environment is usually a direct reflection of the health at the very top of the organization, meaning healthy leadership starts at the top. So if higher management is tolerating and allowing the existence of toxic work environment, it's usually a huge red flag to move on and find another job before the toxicity begins to negatively affect your well-being. Now, in the case if it's just one toxic coworker, you may try talking to his or her supervisor about it. Well, let me just stop right here. If you have a toxic coworker that you're dealing with day in day out, and you happen to work in the same group, um, you can try pulling your coworker aside first and have a one-on-one, heart honest conversation with your coworker, whether it be after working hours or if you want to, talk during lunch break. I think it's well worth the effort to first approach your coworker, okay, in a non-combative, neutral manner, and just say, "Hey, look, I've observed that you seem to be, whatever they're doing. I've noticed that you seem to be short with me, or you seem to say negative comments when we're in a meeting, or whatever the issue is that you feel has been very, very inappropriate and toxic towards you." I would bring that up with a coworker first before I go to his or her supervisor. Okay. Because sometimes the person that's being that way may not even realize it. And so, it may just work itself out if you just approach the person in a calm manner, in a non-threatening manner, and just state how you feel and just say, "Hey, look, I'd like to work with you. Um, uh, you know, this project we're working on, it does require all of us to be cooperative, and I'd like to work with you. And if there's anything I'm doing that you want to see change, that we could both work together, um, please let me know." But it's worth having that conversation first, okay? And if you notice weeks go on and it's the same thing, your coworker is still not respecting you and being totally rude, then I would at that point I would make an appointment and talk to his or to her direct management or supervisor. Um, Schedule a meeting with the supervisor. Make sure to go into the meeting relaxed and calmly state to the supervisor you have observed that your coworker have been behaving in unprofessional and counterproductive ways that may affect the morale of the team. And make sure to offer one or two solutions to address the behavior. Be careful not to point blame on the coworker, but rather to focus your concern on the behaviors of your coworker. There are no guarantees your discussion will work in your favor, but it's still worth trying. If the management is healthy, then by bringing this to their attention, the work environment may in fact improve. However, if the management decides not to take action to address the toxic coworker, then it would be in your best interest to find another job. Life is too short to tolerate toxicity and emotional abuse. We need to prioritize our health and well being. So, if you ever find yourself in a toxic work environment, honor yourself by finding another job as soon as possible. Okay, folks. So this is kind of a short video, but I feel it's worth mentioning. A lot of us are still in the workforce. A lot of us could be young. You still have another at least 30, 40 years ahead of you while you're working. And for those of us who are in our middle age, you still have another at least same thing, 10 or 20 years. It's important because we do spend a lot of time at work. When we're not at home, we're at work, right? And so there's no sense being somewhere for 8 hours a day and be miserable. And worst, in the worst case, like I said, emotional abuse is not worth it. It will eventually harm you in a physical and mental way, and it's not worth it, folks. It's not worth it. I don't care how much money that you make. I don't care, how prestigious the job is. There's so many jobs out in the world. Okay, just like I wouldn't recommend people to stay with people that are toxic. I always say, you've heard me say, my advice is there's 8.2 billion people in the world. There's plenty of fish in the sea. Keep fishing. Okay. The same philosophy goes to your job. Okay. There's not any amount of money that's worth your mental well being or your physical well-being, because obviously if you're stressed every day, it's eventually going to affect you in a physical way. It will manifest itself in your body in a physical manner, and you may end up getting a disease or illness. It's not worth it. Life's too short, folks. So I just want to bring this in words of encouragement to all of you, that if you are in a toxic work environment, you have a toxic manager, boss, or coworker, please address it right away. And definitely start looking for another job. I wouldn't leave a job before you find another job. So, I would say tolerate the best you can, start looking for another job, and then when you find another job, give your 2 weeks notice, okay? This way, there's no hard feelings. I know it's tempting for all of us to not give notice when we're so angry at our boss, but that's not really a professional way of handling things, because, the fact that you are gonna be in the workforce for many years after this, you wanna leave off on good terms, because you never know when you might need them as a job reference, right? So it's always good to leave on good terms with everyone and your boss, okay? So give your 2 weeks notice after you find a job and then move on, okay? Now, if you don't get along with your boss and you're worried that you're not gonna get a good review, then by all means, then at that point, I would still give 2 weeks, but I just wouldn't put your boss's name on the resume. Or if you do, I would definitely, well, that's up to you guys what you want to do, okay? Because you could always explain at the job interview the personality conflict that you and your boss had, if when asked. But the several interviews I've been on in my lifetime, like, they've never really asked about the relationship with your previous boss. And most of the time when people check on the job references, they just call the HR department, the human resources department, to confirm that you actually work there. That's what they're verifying, really. They're just verifying your employment. So I wouldn't worry too much about your personality conflicts with people at the job. Okay? So I hope the video has been helpful. If you resonate, please click like and click share. Please remember to subscribe to my videos so you can be notified of my future upcoming videos. And thanks for watching. And I will see you again soon. Okay, bye.